I'm excited to give you something brand new to start out your 2024, folks. My name is Tim Black, and I got a great series that I'm unfolding for you right now. The name of that series is 100 Days of Exposing 100 Democrats. Whoa. Hold on, guys. My bad. Edit. There's no way that I could do a 100-day challenge, right? Talking about just politicians. I'd fall asleep. I know you would too. Who the hell knows 100 Democrats? Politicians. But we do know 100 Democrats and notable people and stars and celebrities and athletes. That includes all those wingbats, dingbats on The View, all those talk show hosts that always, kissing ass of the Democratic Party, all the SNL cast or whatever, all these basketball players, football players, actors, comedians. And there's a lot of people that are Democrats that we're going to be able to expose. So, edit, guys. Politicians, influencers, stars, celebrities, all the Democrats. We're exposing them. Yeah. This has got interesting, right? This is going to be good. Subscribe if you want to be a part of this, all right? Back to the show. Huh? You like it, don't you? You feeling me, right? I'm going to show you what's corrupt about it, what makes them a sellout, what is wrong with their policy positions. I'm going to show you the ins and outs, the controversial points. Together, we're going to uncover what there is to know about these Democratic politicians and expose them for what they are. You like that? That sound like something you're into? That's right, guys. So let's do this. Start today. No reason to wait. I got one all lined up for us. That's right, folks. My first Democratic politician that we will expose on my list of 100 Democrat politicians in 100 days exposed on the Tim Black Show. My first politician of the Democratic Party will be none other than Jim Clyburn. Many of us who have looked at politicians and said, hey, is this person good for the community? Is this good for America? Or are they good for themselves? Have looked at Jim Clyburn and decided he's good for himself. He's also good for the Democratic Party. In fact, the only people that really admire Jim Clyburn are other black politicians who want to become Democrats, who want to achieve the level of success that Jim Clyburn has achieved. It's not so much about what Jim Clyburn supports or advocates for South Carolinians or for the world, but what Jim Clyburn has been able to accomplish for Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn got elected back in 1990 and he never looked back. 15 times he's been reelected in a predominantly black majority district, the 6th district there in South Carolina, that has been gerrymandered to hell. In fact, according to the studies and research of ProPublica, the investigation unfolded and exposed that Jim Clyburn worked behind the scenes with Republicans to further gerrymander the district, to limit the power of black voters, constitute them into one group so they would have less influence over a number of districts, and also make it almost impossible to remove Jim Clyburn from power. Here goes the author of that article, Marilyn Thompson, as she sat down with Majority Report's Emma Vigeland, saying as much in her own words.
You had a plan that basically had 7 congressional districts, which is what South Carolina has, and they were carved up in ways that the NAACP said they deliberately moved black people to limit their political effectiveness.
And with these 7 districts, is there now only one district that is majority black, and that is Clyburn's district?
That's correct. Jim Clyburn has held the 6th congressional district since 1992. And he was elected originally after the state legislature, under a court mandate, figured out a way to give blacks in South Carolina a member of Congress. This had not been the case for many, many years. And the black population of South Carolina is substantial. And at that point in time was about a third of the population. So they carved out a district for won by Jim Clyburn that literally stretched across the state. and roped in Black communities from Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and everything along the way. That district had a majority Black population, and it was the district that ensured that a Democrat, namely Jim Clyburn, could win and stay in office as the state turned increasingly Republican over the years.
So at its outset, Jim Clyburn's seat has been essentially a racially gerrymandered district, and you, for a long time, of course, you could blame the Republicans for that. Look, they're putting the Black voters into just Clyburn's district. This is kind of standard practice for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
But what's news and what's incredible that you broke over at ProPublica is just how involved it appears to have been Clyburn and his staff has been in maintaining the racial gerrymander that's kept him in power.
That's right. Jim Clyburn worked with Republicans to dilute the Black vote, to give Black voters less power over their own communities. But it enabled Jim Clyburn to run almost uncontested. Basically, no Republicans run against him. And he's so solidified in those districts where he controls and has so many people that owe him favors that no one's ever really made a good challenge to Clyburn. This is all strategically done by Jim Clyburn.
Yeah, I found it absolutely fascinating, and went into this not really knowing anything about Clyburn's role in this. I interviewed Congressman Clyburn in his office back in December of last year and asked him some questions about Republicans and what they were saying in South Carolina about how he had interfered in the process. And he got just furious talking about it. So I didn't know where I was going to go as I began looking into the court record. And what I found was fairly shocking to me. The Republican lawmakers who were running the redistricting conferred with Congressman Clyburn's staff. They brought in a map that was drawn to show what he wanted the 6th district to look like. And none of this was ever made publicly available, which is kind of shocking because the redistricting process is supposed to be a public process.
The resulting congressional map derived by Clyburn and the Republicans render Black folks with statistically almost an impossibility that they will get more than one Democrat representative out of the state of South Carolina. Jim Clyburn, folks. Jim Clyburn has done the dirty deed of making sure he is the HNIC. Jim Clyburn is someone who fights for the Democratic Party, not for the people. If Jim Clyburn endorsed Joe Biden, he made it very clear it was for Joe Biden.
Congressman Jim Clyburn.
I know Joe. We know Joe. But most importantly, Joe knows us.
Biden is promising voters a comeback.
I promise you this. If you send me out of South Carolina with a victory, there will be no stopping us.
Bernie.
He would be willing to say and do just about anything to make sure his guy won. Here goes Clyburn here, talking about Joe Biden. And though most majority of voters, Black support for Joe Biden has careened off the cliff, but Jim Clyburn will go in front of any camera, anywhere, and lie through his teeth about how great Joe Biden has been for the Black community. Even though the Black community, by and large, doesn't think so.
Congressman Clyburn, I'm going to shoot straight with you. And if don't nobody else say it, I'm going to say it. You, sir, are in no small part responsible for altering the course of history when it comes to presidential elections. Everyone remembers what happened during the primaries in 2020 because Joe Biden came into South Carolina in 4th place. And it was your endorsement in that primary that catapulted him to gain the momentum that was necessary to secure the nomination and ultimately become the president. a lot of what happened there was giving a nod to Black America. And I got to ask you straight, do you feel like the president has delivered on what that nod represented?
Absolutely. You can go down by the numbers, starting with the Rescue Act, getting our schools reopened, getting our businesses back on their feet. He did the things that were necessary, bringing over half of the children who were living in poverty, and much as a result of COVID-19, brought them out of poverty with the rescue plan. Then he moved with the largest infrastructure bill that we've had in this country since Dwight Eisenhower's Interstate Highway. Then the CHIPS and Science Act, bringing manufacturing back to this country. Then he went with the Inflation Reduction Act, cutting the cost of medicine, reducing insulin down to $35 a month. My late wife died from diabetes. And I can tell you, I saw $800 and $900 a month insulin bills because she was a full shot a day diabetic.
Joe Biden said on his inauguration day that he owes his win being in office to the Black community. And Jim Clyburn says Joe Biden's paid back the Black community by passing an infrastructure bill that doesn't help Black people at all. How the hell does making electric chargers help Black folks? What's that got to do with our schools? What does it have to do with our take-home pay? What's it got to do with our retirements? What's it got to do with our small businesses? Little to nothing. But see, that's just the thing. Clyburn's not concerned about what we get out of it. Clyburn's concerned about what his party gets out of it, meaning those that put money in Clyburn's pocket and put money into Clyburn's campaigns, and also extends Clyburn's power. Jim Clyburn is a political animal.
The PACT Act, getting those veterans who were not treated fairly coming back from the Vietnam War, getting that done. And then the all-important public service student elimination of the student debt of public servant.
Clyburn has the audacity to say that without Joe Biden, there will be no democracy.
He believes, as I believe, that this democracy is at stake. The freedoms of Americans are at stake. We must re-elect Joe Biden and do it in a way that would demonstrate to the MAGA Republicans and all others who may be looking for an autocracy that democracy will continue to rule the day here in the United States of America.
You know what I've never seen? I've never seen Jim Clyburn go to the mat for voters. Nah, he goes to the mat for the Democratic Party apparatus of which he owes his career. He goes to the mat for whatever party initiatives that are going on that needs his backing. Here he is, talking really tough about some things that most voters don't want, which is America to throw more money into Ukraine and into Israel war.
The American people know that for the sake of our democracy, we can't let Putin win. This delay in funding is a gift to Putin, and every day that goes by without action strengthens his position and the resolve of other autocrats. History teaches us that there are global consequences when we allow dictators and would-be dictators to infringe on freedoms without opposition.
Billions and billions of dollars have been funneled towards Ukraine, and the American appetite for it is waning and waning. And as for Israel, funding Israel, that's a non-starter. We got Joe Biden with the worst approval rating of any president ever since they started tabulating it. And now with the Israel war in Gaza, disapproving of that, disapproving with Joe Biden's position on the war in Israel, we got what? We got Clyburn saying, send more money.
Today, the front line is Ukraine. Tomorrow, it could be one of our NATO allies, requiring a higher price in treasure and American lives. We made a commitment to our friends in Israel. Also, we must support their efforts to eradicate Hamas.
Even though we send billions of dollars each year to help a country that's genociding a group of people that basically have no defense. And then he calls himself a progressive. To whom and for what? What progress? We call that regress. Clyburn is one of those Democrats who were in support of whatever the party went for. For instance, back with the 94 crime bill, Clyburn supported it, of course.
If you're going to categorize left and right, I'm on the left of my party. Nobody can call me anything but a progressive. And been one all of my life. Met my wife in jail, being progressive. So come on.
Though it led to it put mass incarceration on steroids. His boy Joe Biden, one of the linchpins, who took mandatory minimums for possession of drugs from 1 year to a mandatory 5 years, that quadrupled the prison population with tough on crime rhetoric and nonsense that did nothing but hurt the very people that Jim Clyburn says he supports.
I didn't grow up in fear of police, even in a segregated environment. We never feared the police. But all of a sudden now, I do fear the police. The young blacks fear the police. Why? Because we have built in a system that's responding, once again, to Brown v. Board of Education and everything that comes with it. When I was growing up, we didn't have black police. I remember when the first black policeman, remember his name to this day, two of them. One name was Gilliard, one name was China.
What is he even talking about here? He goes out to Cornel West talking to Stephen A. Smith, where he calls out the Congressional Black Caucus in its role in the criminal industrial complex that has created mass incarceration on steroids for black people. Clyburn, man, sit down, man.
Let's get back to President Joe Biden when he was Senator Joe Biden in the 80s, the 90s specifically, and he was helping to push forth that crime bill. A lot of people have argued, wait a minute, he was willing to do it, and he had the support of various folks within the black political apparatus because the Congressional Black Caucus were supporters of the crime bill as well, which, and his argument, if I recall correctly, if I'm wrong in any way, please correct me, sir. I'm not the aficionado that you are. But if I recall correctly, he used that as an excuse. He said, wait a minute, it's what you all were asking for because of what was transpiring within your community.
That's exactly right. You are absolutely right, though, brother. You're hitting the nail on the head. And what does that mean? That means that we had a black leadership that was so tied to the Democratic Party, they became well adjusted to injustice and well adapted to indifference toward the plight of precious brothers and sisters in the hood that became the major source of mass incarceration, especially the war against drugs and the war against drugs would ended up targeting specific communities. You and I know you got a lot of vanilla brothers and sisters, God bless them, high as they could be, flying high in the friendly skies, never get touched. But Jamal and Letitia, when they start engaging in drugs, they get dragged straight to the court.
Well, listen, the numbers,
white supremacy.
See, Clyburn, he's never stepping out of line with the Democratic Party. He's always the guy leading the charge into whatever horrible type of legislation or direction the Democratic Party wants to go. Whether it's mass incarceration or lack of coverage and taking big money from pharmaceuticals. Or to now pretend, oh my God, we cut insulin. America should be a country where we got free health care. Clyburn has never fought for that or anything else that benefits people. What he does is try to protect his party, his gravy train, from Republicans. And he'll team up with Republicans to save his own ass. That's Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn takes so much money from pharmaceutical companies. He's on a list of like the most money taken. Like he's like $1 million a year. That's Jim Clyburn. That's the guy who says, I'm the most progressive who's ever been progressive. You're the most phony that's ever been phony. And the reality is that Jim Clyburn started out as a political activist who went on a strike for a hospital. He was actually on the right side of things with SNCC, with hospitals, with trying to get voting rights. And he became just another one of the cronies in the Democratic Party, throwing us under the bus, securing power for himself, and hooking up a few of his friends.
Congressman, our poll shows that the vast majority of Democrats want to see a challenger to President Biden. Is he the strongest candidate for 2024?
I think he is the strongest candidate, and I believe very strongly that the American people believe that as well.
The only time Jim Clyburn ever stepped out of line with the Democrats was to help Obama. Then he stepped right back in and helped Clinton in 2016. It didn't help her because nobody could help Clinton in 2016. Then he went right over and he helped Joe Biden, and the rest is, everyone knows the rest, what we have now. We have Joe Biden on his last legs, performing horribly, and we got Jim Clyburn still playing the trumpet.
Convinced that President Biden is going to run?
Yes, I am.
What gives you that conviction?
Because anybody with the kind of record that he's got, anybody that has turned the country around the way he has, passing more progressive legislation than any president since Lyndon Baines Johnson, and having the tenacity to pick up from where Harry Truman left off in breaking glass ceilings.
Jim Clyburn is a company guy. That's all he is. He knows how to pick a person in power and to do whatever he has to do to stay close to him in order to stay safe. Name one time Jim Clyburn stepped up for his constituents or for the rest of America. Stepping up for him is saying, I'm going to go with Obama or I'm going to go with Biden. That's not stepping up. When has he ever criticized Biden and told Biden to get out here and get something done for us? Never. It's never going to happen. It's over. Jim Clyburn, like Joe Biden, is 82 years old. It is time to say peace. Sayonara. Arrivederci. Adios. But for some reason, when he talks angry like this, it makes people think he knows what he's talking about, even if what he's talking about is not much. It is repetitive, rhetorical nonsense, where he says it as if he's saying something with conviction, when all it is him defending Poppy, Massa, Big Dog, Bossa, the boss man. That's all it is. How in the hell does that help us? It doesn't.
Like them, they want him to build on Obamacare, not rip it away, but they were not feeling him. So I wanted speech making to be more feeling. And then I saw that rollout of endorsements by Beto, Amy, and Pete there in Texas last night. That was professionalism at its best. I don't know if I had anything to do with that, but I'm very satisfied with the way it was done. If this continues throughout this campaign, the speech making that Biden is now doing, the fundraising that's now taking place, and the kind of rollouts, the kind of organization that I saw last night, he is going to be very successful, and he will be our nominee, and I really deeply feel he will be the next president of the United States.
See, it's not a question, is Jim Clyburn a savvy political actor? He is. But once again, I got to ask you, in whose peril? I'd say it was in our peril. I would say as long as we got to know the demographic of vote blue, anywho, black voters who listen to people like the likes of Jim Clyburn, I mean, basically, he's disenfranchised his own people, taking away their ability to get more than one representative out of a predominantly black state or a largely black state. But they done Swiss cheese up this state so that Clyburn would not have much competition from, I don't know, people with different ideologies who could run against him. Black candidates who are underfunded and who do not have the Democratic machine behind them. In fact, you'll still find Clyburn on cable news dropping the opposite of gems, more like hymns for himself, like this.
We must break our silence. And I think that's what the president was talking about today. Silence gives consent. So when you stay silent about these suppression laws, you stay silent about a woman's right to choose, you are contributing to what's wrong with the country.
Jim Clyburn has excelled in South Carolina, but it's to the detriment of South Carolina, and it's hurt black people. I'm trying to tell you that we would have been better off without a Clyburn, with someone we could pull in and out of the political process, replace and upgrade. Clyburn made himself indispensable by making himself unable to be replaced. The collector of favors. There's always going to be some people that are fooled by Jim Clyburn. They see the power that he's got, they go, wow, I wish I had that. They don't understand that Jim Clyburn doesn't use that power to get a lot done for the poor black people or the middle-class black people in his districts. If he cared about that, he'd want more representatives so they'd have more power. No, he wants to maintain all the power, even if it means black people have less power. That's one of the most selfish things you could do in politics. And Jim Clyburn has done it over and over and over and over again. Jim Clyburn is a power broker. Some admire it. I don't. I consider him a scumbag for all the reasons I've laid out. Clyburn is as ruthless, cutthroat, shady, and notorious as Don King, but a lot less forthright. At least with Don King, you knew what you were getting. All right, that's it. My name is Tim Black. You've been watching Exposing 100 Democrats in 100 Days. Tomorrow, day 2. I wonder who it'll be. Tune in to find out. Remember, like I always say, don't let nobody take your cornbread. It's a new day.